work? Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming this fine Friday afternoon after a very filling lunch for our session here today on the future of agricultural technology, or as we're going to abbreviate it for the next 30 minutes and hopefully for the rest of your lives, AgTech. I am here with a very interesting panel of three distinguished you could say managers and entrepreneurs in the AgTech sector here in India. On my right, I have Saurav Mukherjee from Monsanto, India. Saurav, you're the head of marketing, correct?
Yes.
But you have a career that goes well beyond the agricultural industry.
Yep.
To my left, I have Jatin Singh, the founder and CEO of Skymet. And on the far left, I have Ranjit Mukundan, one of the founders of many, but the CEO of Stellapse. And my name is Mark Khan. I am the founder of Omnivore Partners. We are India's only agricultural technology and food technology venture fund. I'm going to talk for about 2 minutes, and then I'm going to shut up for most of the session, about AgTech in India and why we think it's important. We believe there are essentially three drivers of an AgTech startup revolution in India. And let's be very clear, since we get to see most of the deals in this space, I can tell you that there's actually a huge number of startups that are being developed working on solutions, technologies for the agricultural and food sectors in India. We really think it comes down to three things. The first is there is a massive demand transformation that is rippling through Indian agriculture. And this has been the case for the last decade. It will be the case for the next 2 decades. Essentially, as we get richer as a nation, we eat differently. There's only so much rice and wheat that India can consume. And as people get wealthier, they don't go from having 3 chapatis at dinner to 6 chapatis at dinner. They don't double their rice consumption. They start to eat better, more diverse, right, more nutrient-filled foods. And so essentially we're shifting from a grain-based diet to a protein-based diet. Things that used to be luxury items are becoming daily items of daily consumption, things like fruit. There's much more vegetable consumption, and we're eating way more processed food than we ever used to. And we, again, expect this trend will continue for a very, very long time. And this is having a huge impact on the ground as Indian agriculture pivots to try to meet consumer demand. At the same time, the supply challenges in Indian agriculture are extreme, bordering on terrifying. So you have 5 large bottlenecks in Indian ag. You have a bottleneck of land because we're urbanizing. We're not getting any more agricultural land. We have a bottleneck of soil because we've killed the best soil in the country, right? Go to Punjab, go to Haryana, go to Western UP, go to the Kaveri Basin, and yeah, the best soil in the country. 5 decades of monoculture and crap fertilizer policy have effectively done away with our soil quality. The water table is in free fall, pretty much in every state. We have a massive bottleneck of labor because nobody wants to work in ag labor anymore. The price of ag labor more or less quintupled over a 12-year period. And we have huge challenges in logistics, as everyone knows. So when you take a story of incredible consumer demand transformation and you smash it into these sort of supply constraints and challenges, you get, well, tension, stress, chaos, super expensive onions, and opportunity. And what we've seen is an increasing number of startups that are trying to tackle these issues either on the consumer side or on the production side, that are working on issues of sustainability, that are working on issues of supply chain modernization. And the interesting thing here in India is that we are the only system in the world, we are the only country in the world where you combine a massive smallholder agriculture population. Remember, there are 12 crore farming families in India. You've got 120 million farming families. This is how you say 45% of the population is on farm, right? So we have that system, which is about 15% of our GDP, except don't believe that for a second because it understates the actual impact on GDP. It's much more like 20%. There's a lot of research on this. And at the same time, we have these incredible technological strengths, right, going on in parallel in IT hardware, in IT software, in biotech, in pharma, in auto engineering, tractor engineering. Remember, Mahindra is not just India's largest tractor company, it's the world's largest tractor company, right? And when you have this sort of managerial and technical talent on one side and this sort of agricultural system on the other, what you get is India becoming a laboratory for smallholder agriculture globally. Because this is the only country in the world that combines these two things together, that has the managerial and technical talent required to develop solutions, not just for India, right, but for smallholder agriculture in every country that has similar systems, whether it's in East Africa, West Africa, Greater South Asia, Southeast Asia, right, building on the things that we're strong at, frugal engineering, small-scale mechanization, lean IT. This is the story of Indian AgTech. We really believe that there are essentially 6 sectors. When we say AgTech, it doesn't mean farming, right? These are the sectors that we believe are where you are seeing most of the startup creation, most of the innovation that's going to drive agriculture in India forward. Farm mechanization, sustainable inputs, information services, precision ag, supply chain technologies, innovative food products. This is what we invest behind. And just to come to my final slide and be silent, this is our portfolio, right? This is where we are today with Omnivore. 2 of these companies are sitting at my left. We had another non-Omnivore AgTech company, but they bailed at the last second. I'm going to let these gentlemen speak about their perspectives on AgTech in India. Let's go ahead and start with Saurav for a corporate perspective from Monsanto.
Thanks, Mark. And good afternoon, everybody. I think the way Mark positioned the whole the sentiment behind agriculture, it sounds quite macabre and quite scary. But I think the key takeout of that is really the whole focus, which is going to be on productivity. And that's what Monsanto is one of the largest agricultural seed companies in the world of biotechnology. Everybody's familiar with it. Lo and behold, in India, we are not biotechnology for the most part. As everybody knows, it's only cotton in which there is any biotech. Otherwise, we are one of the leading seed producers for corn with a brand called Decalb. We have the largest herbicide in the country, which is for killing weeds, which is again helping and supporting productivity, which is Roundup. We have Seminis, which is the largest vegetable seed brand in the country. So all of this is through regular conventional plant breeding. There is no biotech in that whatsoever. Now that means biotech actually brings to, you have countries in North America, such as North America, Latin America, where biotech actually brings a lot of positive scope to productivity. So you have drought-resistant crops in corn, you have disease-resistant crops in corn and cotton and soya, you have insect-resistant crops in cotton, and that's all aided through biotechnology. Now what about markets such as India, where you don't have the benefit of biotechnology? It's still a while away. What happens there? Their productivity, the great challenge of productivity is the farmer, especially the smallholder, is having to make 40 decisions through his cropping cycle. Each and every decision is varied in size, scope, dimension, variety, and gets increasingly complex every year. And the data points to support him are only what happened in his village the previous year. So there is no data to support him, there is no technology to support him, and therefore you find that productivity, you take any crop, any cash crop, any food crop, you take over the last 40 years, take the CAGR, you'll find rice is about 0.9% or 1% CAGR. So, we are going to have a serious food crisis ahead over the next 30 years when we will have to double our food production with 1/3 of the available acreage per capita. So productivity is going to be a challenge which is not going to just be wished away. The only crop which stands out in all of this over the last 40 years is cotton. Cotton sounds like a 4% CAGR. Why 4% CAGR? because it's 8% CAGR over the last 10 years or 12 years since biotechnology came in. So what do you do with corn? In corn, we have to grow at least at about 4% CAGR over the next 10 years if we just want to meet our supply-demand gap. So I think that's there is a lot of work which goes on in conventional plant breeding. This is high investments every year, which runs into several $1 million, where we are breeding to come out with more and more varieties of disease-resistant, insect-resistant corn, and also moisture with good moisture stress control. But that's a separate story which is at play. The reason why I'm here is because I'm a great believer of how technology can actually help productivity. About 4 years ago, in 2010, Monsanto started what was called Monsanto Farm Advisory Services, MFAS. It started with about 20,000 farmers being registered onto a toll-free number, being told that there's a toll-free number, call in, and you will get agronomical advice, which will help you for making timely decisions or more informed decisions. And that 20,000 in a period of four years has grown to now about 1.6 million farmers. Now you have 1.6 million farmers on our database who call in, and our peak calls about 4,000 calls on a sowing day, in one day in a call center. All of the calls are all related to basically information pertinent to that particular field or particular crop. So the huge benefit of being able to engage with farmers and solve their decisions based on data, based on information, based on knowledge, is going to be hugely critical for us to also drive productivity. It's not just that irrigation on its own is going to do that, because irrigation, better hybrid seeds in the market, more credit facilities, mechanization, all of that is going to drive at a particular pace of growth, but I think it needs to be also at the side by side. There is a huge capability building issue which also has to go side by side, and I think IT plays a great role in that. So we are now working with SkyMet, and we are happy to work with as many people who come to the table, because we have the US, where Monsanto has gone probably leagues ahead through acquisitions like Climate Corp, wherein now you have precision agriculture. 12,000 cotton farmers or 100,000 corn farmers in the US, they can be told in advance what is that this 500 acres on their patch, this is higher potential yield than the 500 acres on the other side of their land. And they can, to a level of precision, all based on data analytics of 30 years, data is being provided to farmers out there to help them actually get more productive and continue to improve their yields. In India, it's all around capability building. We have to figure out first, how do we capture? And I think with climate, that's number one. How do we get timely information more quickly, as much online as possible, and as user-friendly as possible to the farmer? The second is soil. If we were to have soil maps which are almost existent on every farmer's field, and so that we can provide the relevant data for him or the information for him to help him get better, that would be fantastic. And the third is, of course, in terms of basic agronomy practices. So all of these three are all talks about being connected to 8 to 12 million farmers over the next 5 years, and that's a journey which we are committed to, and we are open to as many forums such as this to try and understand this space better. So
thank you, Saurav, for the perspective from one of the largest agriculture companies in India and the world. Now turning things over to Jatin Singh to tell us a little bit about big data, meteorology, and agricultural statistics in India.
SkyMet is a agri-risk and a weather monitoring company. Sorry, am I audible? I'll just speak loudly. SkyMet is a weather risk and an agri-risk and a weather monitoring company. We started out as a weather forecasting company in 2003, actually, and we kept on building capacities outside the official Met system to give, present, and explain good weather forecasts. Mark came in 2011, and after that, we've actually diversified into all data, weather and agriculture. And basically, as Mark said, my theory is this: if you want to build any solution, if you want to see what is going on, in India, it's very difficult to get real data sets. How much it rained in Chennai yesterday? What is the total corn acreage in Bihar? And our vision is that we will capture every bit of data set from horticulture to agriculture to weather to gust, call it, through a network of sensors. We have now probably the biggest weather sensor network in the country. We have about 2,500 sensors, which is huge. We are using unmanned aerial vehicles. We're actually deploying military technology to culling of data sets. We are using satellites, remote sensing, both on the coarse as well as high and low resolutions. And we are also appending everything with people. I mean, that's something that you really can't escape in agriculture because the data is actually so heterogeneous. And I'm a non-agricultural person. I've kind of stumbled into this. There are two things that is very, very important to understand as we go on. You could be a food processor, you could be government, you could be an agri-trader, you could be a Monsanto. Our agri data set is really, really bad. I mean, there are some 72 institutes that come under the Department of Agriculture. With all due respect, I really don't know what they're doing. I'll give you a simple example. We were doing, when I say we measure, I mean we fundamentally measure. That is, we go and conduct crop cutting experiments, just the way the government does, but in very high density. Because whatever method I evolve needs to be calibrated. Just one example. In Bihar, in the district of Khagaria, the government said, if you look at last 10 years statistics, irrespective of a good year or a bad year, the yield was around, the government numbers were 3 quintal per hectare of paddy, sorry. When we went, our yield varied from 9 to 35. It is by an order of multiple magnitudes that statistics are out. And most of the time, the government statistics are actually lower than actual, even in drought years. So there's that massive disconnect in volume, okay, through any crop. It could be sugarcane, it could be paddy, it could be, I would imagine grapes are better measured because it's a more organized industry, but that's one big observation I made. Second, measurement. You cannot control what you cannot measure fundamentally. It could be your own weight, it could be your bank account. Same applies to agriculture. You've got to measure. And measurement is more about hardware than software. Maybe India evolved or rode the software revolution, but the key to success in measurement is getting a handle on hardware, sensor technology, connecting them, visualizing them, using things like infrared, hyperspectral imagery, radio frequency, unmanned aerial vehicles. That's the way to go. These are high capex investments that over a period of time will create a very strong and powerful platform of information that anybody could make a decision on. And another insight, the reason why you can have a climate corporation in the US being able to kind of focus on one part of the farm versus another is because the institutions in the United States over the last 50 years have painstakingly collected data sets that are good, over which you can make platforms. What has been done by government now is effectively being done by us. First we got into weather, and later we stumbled into agriculture because they're really connected, and you only get value if you connect the two. So again, the idea is big data, very high resolution data sets, as many parameters as possible, and make it as live as possible. Anything that has a time delay in data set data is suspect. So that's where we are.
Thank you, Jatin. Finally, we're going to have Ranjit from Stellapps tell his story. When I met Ranjit, you had quit Wipro 6 months before?
No, about a year.
A year before.
Yeah.
You were operating on top of a shack in
a garage.
Yeah, it was in a garage. Great team that founded this incredible company. Why don't you tell the story of Stellapps and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Stellapps is a wireless machine-to-machine company, M2M in short. And we're trying to apply this technology to the dairy farming space. The cows, the milking, the milk procurement, the milk production, that space. So obviously when we started, as Mark said, we were 5 of us who started this company in April 2011, about 3.5 years old. We were working with this IT company, Wipro Technologies. here in Electronic City in the telecom space. At that point, we probably couldn't tell the difference between a cow and a bull, and let alone anything else. So, so it's a long story how we got into dairy farming. One thing led to the other, and we sort of landed up being the dairy farming segment. We knew that the wireless M2M or the IoT technology can solve a lot of problems, and we picked dairy farming as a vertical where we saw a lot of opportunity and a lot of problems that could be solved with such technologies. For instance, we have an automated milking system that can milk cows in an automated manner, and those are instrumented with sensors to detect various parameters of the cow in real time as the cow is getting milked. For instance, what is the cow milk conductivity, which is a parameter that you can use to get into preventive healthcare for the cows, which is a huge revenue upside and loss prevention for the dairy farmer who's actually trying to produce milk. That's on the milk production side. We're also on the milk procurement side, where we do things like cold chain management. Milk, as you know, is a highly perishable item, so you need to be able to maintain it at 4 degrees centigrade. Should it get underchilled or overchilled, it's of very little use. So how do you ensure that it remains at that temperature, and you can actually ensure that by the time it reaches your home, it's worthy of consumption. Then we also focus on a society-based milk collection, where farmers actually come in to pour the milk. How do you ensure that that data that's collected as the farmer is pouring the milk comes in real time online to the key stakeholders who can then take actions in real time? And as Jatin said, it's very critical for us to collect all this data. So we see a huge amount of data coming in into our systems. And the opportunity is huge. There are about 400 million cows and buffaloes in India. In absolute sense, India is the largest milk producing country in the world, about 130 million tons annually. But in terms of per capita consumption, we are probably among the lowest, just about 250 grams, just about the WHO standards. If you look at a developed country like the US, they consume about 3 kgs of milk per capita. Not because they drink a lot of milk, but they consume a lot of value-added products like cheese and those kind of stuff. So in milk terms, it goes up very high. In India, it's just 250 grams. So we saw on one side a lot of problems on the milk production, milk procurement side, and we figured that a lot of these M2M mobility solutions can actually can be applied very easily to solve these problems. And then we saw a huge potential for a country like India. And we believe that we see a lot of traction. We see very interesting traction, like there's someone from an IBM or an Accenture who has 10 acres of land back in his village, and he comes to us and says, look, I want to set up an end-to-end, highly sophisticated dairy farm in a cost-effective manner. And that's a typical customer for us. So what we have done is we also have a system integration arm that actually focuses on how do you build a scientifically managed cow shed. How do you build a proper biogas unit? Because it's one thing to have all this technology in the farm, you need to have power to actually run these technologies. So we have a system integration arm that actually looks at introducing biogas units, builds cow sheds, setting up parlors so that you can actually simultaneously milk a large number of cows in parallel, because if you're setting up a scalable model, you actually need that. We have a consulting part, it's a small group of veterinary doctors, paravets, artificial insemination technicians, civil architects who actually do the soil analysis to see if the IBM guy who actually wants to start a farm back in his village, if that land is good enough to grow the right type of fodder. So we have an SI arm that actually starts seeding these customers, and then we start coming in and deploying all these technologies, all the IoT and M2M technologies. So that's what we're doing in this space.
So just so that we can get a sense of the crowd here, how many people here grew up around agriculture? How many people here are interested in agriculture? How many people here are launching, have worked in agriculture before, in agricultural technology companies? Okay, cool. And how many people here are currently or planning on launching startups in this space? Good. I will give you all my number afterwards. This is very effective for venture capitalists. This is rather than try to generalize across these different perspectives. Biotech plus IT, Jutton, where he's doing essentially an integration of Internet of Things and big data, and M2M and Internet of Things in the case of Ranjit at Stell Apps. I think what we'd like to do is take questions from the audience, because I'm sure you guys would like their perspectives as entrepreneurs, as managers in the agribusiness space. So why don't we do that for the rest of the time that we have, and we're happy to stay afterwards and chat with you guys as well. Someone take this from me, or do we have a mic for the crowd? Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to check if there is any open platform where, as an entrepreneur, if I actually go to the farmers and capture some data, if I can put it into your data farm and leverage the analytics part of it.
No, we're not there yet. No, I'm not there yet.
I've never seen an open platform in the space before.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go build one.
So this question to Jatin actually. This is regarding the climate, whatever you are basically forecasting climate and trying to have that. So I would like to know, like we had a problem recently, right? There were no rains for 1 month or so.
Yeah.
So that challenge, I would like to know how, because that challenge was not resolved, right? We didn't able to do anything, and their farmers suffer a lot. So I would like to have insight.
Okay. We are pioneers in long and medium range forecasting in India. Okay. Now, long and medium range has two limits, temporal and spatial, which means there are times that it works and there are areas in which it works and doesn't. And every year we're able to eke out bit by bit by bit. So there is no, globally there is no full solution. So I cannot tell you that what is going to happen on 27th of November in Bangalore. Now, we started out looking at long range in 2011. And one thing that I am pretty much sure we can do now, and you've seen it for the last 2 years, is tell the accent of the monsoon on a national scale. Is it going to work or is it going to fail? 2012 we said below normal, it was below normal. 13 we said normal, very much normal. 2014 we were the first people to come out and say it was going to be a drought. It ended up as a drought at -12. Now, can you take tactical decisions based on long and medium range forecasts? Probably not. Can you take strategic decisions? Probably yes. Which means that in 2014, if I'm saying that it's going to be a bad monsoon, that means there will be extended dry spells. Okay, that means the onset is going to be disturbed. So if one would statistically kind of solve this problem, maybe then you can come to a farm action. What we figured out because of hit and trial, and which we will probably succeed next year is, we think you can do a 20-day forecast for precipitation at, say, the sea level in advance, which is quite correct for areas between Maharashtra and Northeast, districts and tehsils. Highest level of success. Okay. On a national scale, we think we can now find intra-monsoon, dry spell and wet spell. So we kind of figured this out in July, and after that we found the dry spell in August. We found the wet and dry spell in September. So it's coming to that. So if you are a Monsanto or a Bayer.
By found, you mean you predicted it?
Yeah.
Right.
So I mean, we've predicted it, statistically found it, operationally predicted it, anyway. So if you're a Monsanto or a Bayer or a beverage company, then you can use this data, because then you can take out a historical stock data, see which year this is most nearest to, and get a broader picture. If you're a farmer and what should I do 20 years from now and I'm in Punjab, probably not. So it's in between these two. The challenge exists. I think it's a very complex challenge. The reason is meteorology, like civil aviation, like your postal service, is governed by international agencies. So if I want to predict over India, I need data in Darwin, Australia. So plus, there are a lot of new research is coming that for areas around the equator, you can actually do long range. For example, in the United States, there is no long range. Okay, we are actually ahead and better in that. So that's why you'll get pieces coming in year after year.
Next question.
This question for Ranjit.
If I were to do a short range, I would say it would be tehsil. Short range is about 3 days time, the amount of rainfall and the volume of it. If I'm doing medium range, I would say it would be a block. If I'm doing long range, I would say, sorry, medium range it would be a district. And if I were doing long range, I would say it would be a state level. No, depends, the range. Short, medium, long, I defined it. For a tehsil for a short, about a district for medium, and a state level for long.
Next question. You had a question, didn't you? Did someone steal your microphone? Bring it back.
This question for Ranjit.
Yeah.
What about soil? You said you do soil testing also. So you have a lab for that, and because government is talking a lot about soil testing, soil health card, and how much benefit is for the farmer.
Yeah, so we have a system integration group with people who have hands-on knowledge of which type of fodder will grow in which type of land. If it's a high rainfall area, there's only certain type of fodder that would grow. Because for a dairy business, getting the right fodder is very important, because 60% of your input cost in running a dairy farm is your feed and fodder, right? So you need to get that part of the problem right. So it's not so much so a lab-based precision testing, it's more a broad-based testing, such as in this particular place in North Karnataka, who has 10 acres of land, can you grow maize, this type of a maize? Can you grow shibagul? Can you grow this type of fodder? So we have identified about 17 different types of fodder, which may not grow in all parts of the country. So this team actually goes and analyzes the feasibility of using a piece of land to set up a dairy farm, of which fodder is a critical part. So we do analysis at a broad and macro level, not a very precision level in analyzing what is the potash level, what is the nitrogen level. Because in a region, at a regional level, you can get a broad assessment of amongst the 17 types of fodder that we have identified, which of them can grow in that farm. So to that extent, we do that analysis.
Okay, and the giant hook is coming out of the side of the stage, and it's time for us to end. Thank you all very, very much for joining us.